Hello there, and welcome to the first in a series of Rainbow Six Siege strategic guides. This is something I've thought about doing for quite a while now, and I finally got the spark of inspiration to start putting these together. I wanted to start these because strategy and team play are my favorite aspects of this game. And as great as it feels to pull off heroic clutches or nasty shots, I always found a well-executed plan to be the most satisfying of victories in any match. Before we get started for this first strategy, I want to express something that I'll probably reiterate to some degree in every one of these that I do, and that is that no strat is guaranteed victory, and there's always a way to counter whatever you bring to the table. Also, any strat can be blown up by someone nailing every headshot against you and your teammates if your aim is off on any particular day. That's just how Siege works sometimes. But it's my belief that as long as you have a decent level of mechanical skill, you should be able to win many matches in this game in a coordinated team effort. As someone who has spent most of their time living in the mid-gold to low plat range, I can't tell you if my ideas will help you climb the plat ladder to diamond, but I hope that by making these, maybe you find things that you and your friends can try, or maybe you take a specific setup to try out for yourself, or at the very least be inspired to come up with your own ideas or improve upon what I present. I wanted to start these videos by taking a look at Kanal. As a map that is in the ranked pool and doesn't seem to be entering competitive play anytime soon, I thought this would be an interesting one to dive into. We're going to start by looking on the defensive side, and servers and radar is going to be the site that we analyze today. I think there is a case for kayaks and supply room being the top site, but we'll save that for a later video. First, let's pinpoint some areas of importance on servers and radar. Attackers often like pushing from blue stairs and printers to take control of Skybridge. We have to worry about the red and green stairs because attackers will try to gain control from below to deny any anti-breach on the construction wall, and we always have to be concerned about anyone crouch walking up into our space. And of course, we have to worry about the outer facing walls of construction. Before we get into our operator lineup, let's talk about the operator bans. For Kanal, I like banning Maverick for the attacking side and Valkyrie for the defensive side. Thatcher is also a very useful ban for what we're planning to do here, but he is often banned by opposing teams because he is so powerful, and Maverick can be a real headache for what we're planning to do here. As for Valkyrie, we'll get more into that when we talk about attacking strategies, but her cameras are a big loss on defense for sure. Let's get into the lineup that we'll be bringing here. We'll be taking a very utility-heavy approach for this site. Our operator selections are Jaeger, Mute, Castle, Goyo, and Kaid. We'll start by taking a look at Jaeger's setup and his responsibilities. You can bring any weapons of your choice, but I recommend barbed wire for this setup. Jaeger has a fairly short setup because he won't be reinforcing or placing utility in different parts of the site. We're going to start by placing an ADS next to the control window. You're going to want to play Drone Hunter for a decent portion of the prep phase on Skybridge. It's a nice advantage if you can shoot out a few careless drones trying to cross the bridge at this point in the round. Next, you're going to want to put one of your barbed wires on the blue stairs, and put the other one at the printer window. Place your second ADS next to the printer window, and place your third near the position you're going to be playing behind the printer. Your main responsibility as Jaeger is to defend blue stairs and printer, and make it difficult for the attackers to take control of Skybridge. You're essentially playing for your life here, because you don't want to surrender control of this area until you absolutely need to. If you feel like you're losing control, you can always fall back to the black boxes on Skybridge and play from there. The main idea here is to waste as much of the attacker's time as you can, and to have most of your utility here assist you. I recommend that the player most comfortable playing by themselves in tight areas take this role. Now we'll take a look at Mute's role. Like Jaeger, you can take any weapon of your choosing as Mute, but I recommend taking a bulletproof camera over the coveted nitro cell. Mute has a lot of ground to cover in the prep phase, but fortunately none of his responsibilities involve reinforcing. You're going to start by placing a jammer on the outer facing construction wall. This will act as the first line of defense for the attacker's plan to destroy anti-breach utility. Then you're going to want to head across Skybridge and place a jammer by the printer window. On your way back across Skybridge, hop up on this control desk and place your bulletproof cam that looks down towards Skybridge. This will be a useful tool if Jaeger is eliminated early. Then he can watch this cam and give callouts if enemies are pushing down Skybridge. Because Castle is part of this setup, these doorways will be blocked off, but there should be rotation holes in these spots to help you maneuver through the site. You're going to place your third jammer at the top of green stairs and place your final jammer at the top of red stairs, making sure that it also covers the entryway. You're going to be playing on red stairs as mute here, and you have a few areas to worry about. You have to be concerned about someone coming up from red stairs, rushing through the entryway, or hopping through the 90 window. You can alleviate some of the pressure by barricading the entry doorway, but that does give attackers some comfort to operate in that area. Castle is probably the most important operator for this setup, and it's primarily due to the fact that he'll be doing all of the site reconstruction. You can use whatever primary you're comfortable with, but you're going to need to bring the Super Shorty as your secondary, and the bulletproof camera as your gadget. We're going to start by reinforcing the wall between the bomb sites that is closest to control room. Next, make a vault hole next to that reinforcement. After that, hop on through and then make a crouch hole in the corner of the wall facing green stairs. These don't need to be pretty, 4 to 5 shots ought to do the trick. Put an armored panel on the wall that faces green stairs, then head to the other wall connecting the bomb sites, and then make a sight line that can view the top of red stairs and the construction entry points. I made mine at prone level, but anything should be fine in this spot. You're going to put your second armored panel on the other server door that faces control room. This will help secure servers a bit more from anyone trying to snipe from the opposite building. Next, make some sightlines in the wall closest to the control window. This will come in handy if the attackers ignore a skybridge take and Jaeger can come back to help against a radar room execute. Finally, place your bulletproof cam on the wall next to the construction entry point so that it faces into radar room's default plant spot. I feel that this camera will come in handy in the late round situations if your team is forced off the radar room site. Your main responsibility as Castle in the early game is to hang very close to the construction entry point, but you can also assist Mute by holding an angle on the 90 window close to red stairs. You're staying close to the construction entry because if the attackers are breaching the walls in any way, place your third armored panel on the doorway. Make sure that Kai gets out of construction before you do this though. This is admittedly a bit of a troll move, but it can be surprisingly effective because it's very possible that the attackers may have exhausted most of their utility by this point. I feel that you have a couple options if the round gets to this point. You can remain in radar room and play a more aggressive role behind the bomb chassis, or you can hop over the rotate and play in or around servers. I personally like the notion of playing in radar room and forcing the attackers to deal with you, but that could depend on how the round plays out and whether or not you still have control of Skybridge. Now, for my favorite setup on this site, we have Goyo. Once again, you can take any weapons you like, but I recommend taking proximity alarms as your gadget. You might have noticed that we've done very little reinforcing at this point, and that's about to change, because Goyo is going to be responsible for 5 reinforcements in servers. You're going to reinforce the 4 connected walls that face 90 Hall, and reinforce the wall to the left of the server door facing green stairs. It may seem odd that a fairly heavy utility op like Goyo has this much reinforcing to do, but I assure you that you'll have ample time to complete this setup. Place your first proximity alarm above green stairs, and I like using the second one on the entry point by red stairs. That way they are far apart from each other, and the second one can help out Mute. Place your first Vulcan shield next to the window by green stairs, and place your second at an angle at the top of green stairs. You will find that you will get to play in a pretty powerful spot in the rotate hole that Castle has made for you. You can detonate the window Vulcan on anyone hopping in, and you can just dip into sight afterwards. And you can use the proximity alarm that's on green stairs to detonate your other Vulcan, if you so choose. You have some options on how you can utilize your Vulcan shields here, but admittedly I'm not the most wily of Goyo players. I just think it's important that you make the attackers have to deal with you and your utility one way or another before retreating back into servers. Finally, let's talk about Kaid. Again, any weapons will do, but you're going to want to have the nitrocell equipped for those oh-so-sweet plant denials. Kaid easily has the least stressful of setups. He's just going to reinforce the 4 construction walls. That's it. That's his setup. You can shoot out holes in the outer walls for clearer audio cues for when the hard breach gadgets are placed. Your main responsibility with Kaid is to try to trick the hard breachers on the wall and deny them access. You might be wondering why we're not using Bandit in this situation, and that's a fair question, because Bandit tricking is a technique that people are more familiar with executing. When it came down to it, I felt that Bandit was much more vulnerable in this position trying to trick these walls because it's so easily countered by the soft floor underneath. Kaid just has more freedom to operate in this spot. As I mentioned, with not being a very wily Goyo player, I'm also not the most experienced with juggling Kaid's Electro Claws, but I think it's a technique that can be very useful, especially with bandit tricking becoming much less viable as time moves on. At this point, you can probably see why Maverick would be a real pain to deal with here. Kaid couldn't trick the wall effectively, and Castle would not be able to put up his final barricade. Speaking of which, if you see that you were unsuccessful in tricking the hard breachers, quickly exit out of construction so Castle can put up his final barricade, and vault through the rotate into servers. From here you can use the sightline to contest the top of red stairs and the entry point, and you can also contest the construction entry if they breach the castle wall. Most importantly, you will have your nitrocell servers that you can use to deny a plant in the default spot behind the radar desk. You need to get a high arc to toss it from a crouch or prone level, but it is possible to get it to any one of those spots behind the desk. Alright, so let's do a quick recap of all the setups and see what this will look like when it's all put together. Fair warning though that this will probably look a little cluttered, so some things won't be exactly where they should be placed, but you'll get the general idea. Jaeger sets up an ADS by control window, barbed wire on blue stairs and printer window, and ADSs next to the printer window and on the wall by the printers, and he plays behind the printer. Mute sets up a jammer on the construction wall, a jammer by the printer window, a bulletproof cam on the wall facing Skybridge, and final jammers on the top of green and red stairs, and then he plays on red stairs. Castle reinforces this wall and makes a vault rotate right next to it. He hops on through and makes a crouch rotate in this wall, puts up an armored panel on this server door, makes a sightline here, then puts up his second armored panel on this server door, and then makes another sightline here. Then he places his bulletproof cam facing the radar plant spot. And then he plays here to start. Goyo reinforces these 5 walls and servers, throws proximity alarms here and here, sets up a Vulcan by the window and the other one at the top of green stairs, and then he plays in this position. Kaid reinforces the 4 construction walls, and then plays in this position to juggle his electro claws to trick the hard breachers. This looks a little messy, but at least you have the video to see the exact location of where things should be placed. Just to show you that you can complete this setup in enough time, I'm showing each operator setup with a timer here. Mute, Castle, and Goyo are the ops that you might want to pay the most attention to because they do have the longest setups here. Realistically speaking, all of these may take a little longer because we're naturally distracted by drones or whatnot, but you should be able to complete the setup and be in your starting positions approximately 15 to 20 seconds into the action phase. I think this would be a good time to talk about some potential weaknesses of the strategy to be mindful of, besides losing gunfights to a Mach 5 Ashen IQ duo. We have a utility-heavy lineup and a Jaeger on the board, but he is only using 1 ADS to protect a single armored panel, and ever since his change of having the ADS on a cooldown after a zap, it is not nearly as strong when protecting utility unless they're stacked. This is a bit of a risk, mainly for Goyo. Not only are his Vulcans susceptible to nades and other explosive projectiles, but he is vulnerable if the armored panel facing the control window is destroyed. It's at that point when the Goyo player would need to decide how they want to play out the rest of the round. Another weakness is that there's a lot of soft floor underneath us, and we don't really have any presence down there to protect ourselves. Mute is somewhat close on the red stairs landing, but that's probably not enough to deter the attackers. Well, that's all I got for you in this video. Overall, I think that this would be a really fun strat to try, so let me know what you think and what changes you might make to this to make it better fit your playstyle. If you enjoyed this video and want to see others, subscribe to stick around and join us as we check out our next defensive setup on Kayaks and Supply Room. Thanks for hanging out and listening to my dumb ideas.